You ever heard me mention that I love hunting with the weather and I love hunting by the weather? You know, hunting the weather wasn't about coming up with some gimmicky thing to say this is when you should go hunt. It was born out of, I had young kids. I didn't have a lot of vacation time. 2 weeks at the bank when I worked at a bank starting in the late 80s, 1990, right around there through 98. And I had 2 weeks off for vacation in those early years, the first 5 years, 7 years, something like that. And they would let me use a half day at a time. And when I was going to burn a half day, I wanted to count. I wanted to be able to use it and say, I burned my half day on a good day. I didn't want to burn it on a bad day because I loved hunting. So for me, it was about being efficient with my time off, and I didn't have a lot of money. So when I went hunting and I was going to drive somewhere to go hunting, we used to live about an hour and 45 minutes from the thumb area of Michigan where I hunted. So you drive an hour and 45 minutes. If I was going to burn gas, if I was going to go up there, we had a pretty cheap camper we stayed in. My buddy and Mike and I got one, or bought one and fixed it up. We stayed in that for a number of years. We'd, little heaters. We had electricity, thank God, because we at least had some heat then. I can remember sleeping in there without heat. So at times we didn't even have a heater. And but the bottom line is, not a lot of money, not a lot of vacation time. And so when I took time off and when I went hunting, I really had to make the most of it. And that's what this weather algorithm, that's what hunting by the weather was born from, because I recognize there's days that deer move and there's days they don't. And we see that now, it's like cheating as far as watching the weather. We have dozens of cameras in 2 states, they're cell cameras, and we can see by the minute when deer are moving and when they're not. And you see that consistency. And I will point out, I haven't developed a turkey algorithm yet, but when we see turkeys in one state, we see turkeys typically in the other, and we see them in multiple spots in the property. It's pretty cool to see that. And we've seen that it's been enough to where you see it like once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. But when you've seen it dozens of times now over a period of years, it's pretty interesting that turkeys seem to move all about the same time. I don't know if they can hear each other from state to state. Dylan, 50 miles away, they have good ears, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, but anyways, they seem to move based on certain weather predictors too. And that'd be something to figure out. But bottom line is there's times deer move and times they don't. And people say, well, I've shot big bucks in the rain. Someone made a comment, an interesting comment, and I didn't blast him too hard, but he made a comment this morning on YouTube. I stopped listening when this guy said deer don't like moving in the rain. Deer can move in the rain. They do move in the rain. But when you have moderate, prolonged periods of rain, when you have a lot of noise in the woods, especially when it's not the rut, they just don't like moving. And we'll see with dozens of cameras in 2 states, we'll have a rain event over a day, day and a half, even half a day, and deer just simply don't move. I'm not saying that none move. We have a lot of cameras out. But the percentage of when there's good weather days are 10% of what you see during a good weather day versus rain. And so you can just see that. It's plain as day. You can see if it's super windy out. The cameras aren't working. Well, it's 35, 40 mile an hour winds for gusts, 20 mile an hour sustained winds. They're not going to move. Thunder showers, you can see they don't move. So you have all those extremities and you can pick that out. And so it's like you take those days out and what you're left with is half the time. And then you take that half the time that's left and you try to figure it out from there. So when we see this giant cold front coming through, and when I say giant, the weather's changing. We've had a flurry about 2 weeks ago here, a snow flurry, and that was it, like in a random afternoon. That was it. Next week, we're going from highs in the 40s and 50s this week, last week, the week before. It seems like it's been boring for a while, to highs in the 30s. And when I say highs in the 30s, it's not just for a weekend. It's for a prolonged period of time. Like you see this winter weather or late fall weather, whatever you want to call it, is starting to sock in. And so when I see that, I get excited because that creates opportunity. This time of year when things are in the 40s and 50s, it's just boring weather. There's not much going on. The deer herd reflect that. There's really not much movement. There's no need to go hit food. There's no need to go find good cover. There's no need for them to do anything except wander around randomly, eat a little bit here and there. They've already been suppressed by deer hunters. They've already been worn out from the rut. There's really not much for them to do. So when you see these temperatures taking place, then you know that they're going to hit high volume food and they're going to do it by herd. And so when you see that first day, it drops from 47, and I'm looking at the 22nd of November, 25th of November, 28th of November, and you're seeing these drops through. But when you see that first day is down to 39, then you see another day at 34, another day at 37, you see pictures of snow flurries coming in the forecast, snow showers in the forecast. You see nights in the 20s, an occasional night in the high teens. That's a big, big shift from what's been going on lately. And so with that shift and with that being said, deer movement goes from random and somewhat unpredictable to heavy food source movement that you can count on. In fact, food sources are sitting there, and I would say some bean fields in the given location, brassica fields in a given location, even leftover clover that they haven't picked at, they're going to be hitting those food sources, and they're going to be hitting them hard. And every day that it remains cold, seems like that food source sucks in more and more deer. And it's not just food plots. It's that favorite clear cut of yours on public land. It's that favorite swamp edge of yours on public land. Especially when those swamps start to freeze a little bit, and let alone if we get 2 or 3 inches of snow on it. It's amazing how some of these wet swamps, when they get frozen and you have that thick edge where there's red osier dogwoods, it's changing into a little bit of aspen, into hardwoods. There's some conifer mixed in. There's some conifer islands out in the swamp somewhere. Boy, that edge right there becomes golden, and it's because of the diversity of food and browse that they can eat all night long. And if you combine an adjacent ag field, adjacent clear cut, whatever it might be, then you have the recipe for a food-related, non-random deer hunting movement. I hope you can find that in your area because it is a lot of fun to hunt. Unpressured is key. You can have the best food, you can have the best habitat, but if it's pressured, it's junk. And the deer know about it. You might have some does and fawns, young bucks. It's very deceiving. Some will say, oh, they're going to hit that food source every single night. Kind of like, yeah, I'll shoot big bucks in the rain. But you'd rather plan on being good, not lucky. Anyone can be lucky here and there. You can make bad decisions and be lucky. I want to be consistently good. I want to look at it and say, this is what should be happening. That's why I came with the weather. That's why I came up with the weather algorithm that I did in HuntCast for HuntWise. First wrote that for Outdoor Life in 2015. It's going back a ways. But I came up with that because, again, I wanted to maximize my time of field. And everyone thinks, you're in the hunting industry, you can just hunt every day you want. What are we doing right now, Dylan?
Filming.
Are we hunting?
We're working.
We're hunting this afternoon.
You wanted to hunt this morning. I was like, no, we got work to do.
Yeah, and Dylan even said, you reminded we have 10 videos to shoot today. And I'm like, should I go out and sit in an hour and a half and come back in at 8? And then Jackson's here, and Dylan's Jackson's buddy. Calls him Uncle Dylan.
We the boys.
And so Jackson loves when his Uncle D's here. And so when Jackson's around, he hasn't gone to daycare yet, he's going to spend his quality Uncle D time when Dylan gets here first. So that's, and you got your quality time today.
Yeah,
you play with him. Yeah,
playing
Dylan.
Some blocks, eating airplane cookies.
Yeah, I was going to say, Dylan saved his airplane tickets or cookies from a recent trip and gave them to Jackson. So Jackson can have something to look forward to when Uncle D gets here. But anyways, that's, we'd rather be hunting right now. I would have rather sat this morning, but we have work to do again. And so, I want to hunt all the time. I can hunt any day I want. I can't hunt every day. I have to get work done. We have to film. We still put out 4 videos a week, still have partners, sponsors to talk to, still have family to see, things to do, things to do around the property. Yesterday, Jen and I spent some time going out and getting 4 cameras ready again. We run video on our cameras. One of them was on 15-second video, so it only lasted 2 months. We put AA lithium batteries, and we find that 2 months we can count on. When we changed some of these batteries yesterday on November 13th, I even told Jen, I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Some of these batteries are going to last in through the end of January. We're going to be able to see the survivors. That's even on 10-second video, let alone on some of them we actually set for just taking pictures. I'll put it on a minute delay or a half-minute delay because we know we can get 5, 6, 7 months or more. Sometimes we'll get a year. Depends on the camera and the location, the service, everything. But, we're doing that. We're still doing work during this time of year. The other day, we had to put some rye out on an area I want to grow and compete with weeds. We had to take some brush down because we're gearing up for late season muzzleloader hunting that's coming up in a couple weeks. Wes went over with our RTV Kubota and with a diesel and drove up on our property because we're not going to be hunting it for about a week, at least 5 days, to change 2 batteries out on cameras up there that are real important to us in Wisconsin. So there's still stuff to do, bottom line is, and I can't hunt every day. You know, I might have 30, 35 sits a year. I would say I'd average maybe 10, 12 sits a state. You know, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Kentucky this year, Pennsylvania. So that might total 40 sits, but it's over a 4-month period. Think about that, 10 sits a month. That's not a lot compared to how many days you can actually hunt. So unpressured. We need to find, you know, again, all this is for naught if you're not finding unpressured areas. And so when we're picking or choosing our time to hunt, we're leaving things unpressured. And what I'm really focusing on too is you have that great food source. A great food source is nothing without great cover. Now, when it's in October and early November, you could have a lot of random movement through the hills, open hardwoods. A buck will bed back on a saddle or a bench, a point, and there's not bad weather. He doesn't need a lot of browse. He's just kind of laying there lazily mid-October. He wants to be in the shade. It's hot out still, and then he's moving to a distant food source. But this time of year, they want high stem count. And they want diversity. They want briars, shrubs, hardy regeneration, some conifer, switchgrass, whatever it might be, so that they can actually call this home for the daylight hours and have plenty of browse and plenty of thermal protection. You don't want necessarily just one big cedar swamp because there's not a lot of food there. They'll go in there during an extreme storm, extreme blizzard. But you really want to have that diversity so they actually have some food to eat. So if you're looking on public land, that could be your daylight and nighttime movement. You're looking for maybe adjacent to an oak flat where there's some leftover acorns. That's where they feed in the afternoon and off and on during the night. In fact, what I see is deer, when there's a lot of predation, I'll see deer sitting on knolls in the middle of the night because they can see in a lot of different directions out in those big open hardwoods. Or if they're packed into the cover, a coyote, bobcat, even a wolf can sneak up on them pretty good. So they go out, and it's even out in the open ag fields around here. They're out in the open fields all night. We don't see as many deer pictures on the property during the middle of the night because they're all out in the open. And I think that's social. There's food, and then it's safe for them too. So it's pretty easy. That's why it's super windy. They're back in that thick cover. But you want that thick cover on public land. You want it for your afternoon, evening, morning, 24-hour food source. And on private land, you want that thick stem count thermal protection cover of diversity right next to that food source. And it might be that you have that unpressured afternoon food source, and this is 300 yards away. Well, now you're getting into smack dab in the middle of most buck bedding area opportunities. If you just have 50 yards of brush next to that, you might have some does and fawns. There's not enough room for a mature buck. Again, that mature buck will move a long ways, but he'll move a long ways under the cover of darkness to get to a big food source if he feels that he doesn't have that stem count daytime browse that he requires, not only for hiding and for his ultimate cover, but actually for browsing on all day and keeping his energy levels up so that you can withstand the change in temperature and the cold. So lots happening over the next week to 2 weeks and through the end of November. We can't wait to put these strategies to test when you go out to Pennsylvania public land and hitting some of our favorite out there. I'm looking for south-facing slopes. You're going to have more stem count and diversity. There's more sunlight hitting that area, even if it's just 50% more, but there's usually a lot. The side that Dylan and I were hunting on last year was pretty thick up towards that top. It's like the higher you got, the thicker it got with brush because it's more exposed to the sun, and you get down in those valleys, it gets to big open hardwoods. And I want to be in that brush line this time of year. Jen's in a saddle where she sat last year. She'll probably sit this year again. She was in a saddle portion of big ridge system movement where I've shot some bucks in the past. And she had a lot of thick cover up there because it's exposed to the sun. So we're focusing on those thick areas even when we go out in public land adjacent to acorn and beech nut flats. So hope you can take advantage of that. There's a lot of great opportunity with this weather change. Watch for it in your area. Most of the time I look at all the areas, but it doesn't matter. There's a big cold front sweeping across the country. It's going to take place this late November. You need to be out there. These are some ways that you could take advantage of that. And I hope you have a great, safe hunt and enjoy this opportunity. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. You're our best followers. You followed all the way to the end of the video. Really invite you to check out our website. We have our earthway spreaders for sale, great Christmas presents. We're booking clients right now, all 5 of us. So by the end of December, it seems early, but by the end of December, our schedule will be booked for 2025. It's hard to believe. I'm already booked for December and most of January, February. We have our web classes, the Rut web class, how to design your whitetail property, and really important, hunting hills and thermals, understanding the wind. Those are great products on our site, all the books. Thank you so much for watching all the videos, buying the seed that you did this year. Really appreciate you.